The Miami Heat need to trade for Dejounte Murray, or hell, maybe even Terry Rozier. But one thing is certain, and it's that the Heat and Pat Riley need to wake up and make a deal, or I think we might be in trouble. I know we don't want to overreact, but this past week has been horrible. A overtime win against the Nets, 96-95. They barely squeaked it out after a horrific offensive display outside of one quarter, but the first, second, fourth quarter offensively was bad. Then you get absolutely railroaded by the Toronto Raptors on Wednesday, a team that traded Pascal Siakam earlier in that day. You should have beat Toronto. Not a good team. You get boat raced. And then you lose at home on Udonis Haslem's night. He gets his jersey retired, put up into the rafters, and you lose 110-109, or I think it was 109-108. Sorry about that. Just absolutely disgraceful basketball this past week from the Miami Heat, and I think there is a serious issue with this offense. I am Nic Rohloff of the Heat Report by Chat Sports. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because we are going to update you on all Miami Heat trade rumors leading up to the deadline. We are also planning on going live for the NBA trade deadline, and we're also live multiple times a week for Heat watch parties. Our next watch party is Wednesday against the Memphis Grizzlies when the Heat return home. Jaime Jaquez Jr. should return for that game, by the way. We'll talk about him in just a bit. But I do want to dive into the latest rumors surrounding the Miami Heat and really just the idea of trading for Dejounte Murray. He has been the person we have talked about the most on this channel on who the Heat should have traded for and who they're linked to. It is Dejounte Murray. It should be Dejounte Murray because he hit that game winner against you last night one to win the game, right? He hit that three right over Caleb Martin, 109-108, dagger in your soul. And the thing that impressed me about Dejounte Murray last night is that he actually didn't even play that well. He ended up with 22 points and 11 assists, but he shot 9 of 22. So before he hit that game-winning three, he was 8 of 21 and got blocked by Caleb Martin on the previous possession that the Hawks had before Bogdanović got fouled in the corner and got free throws, but he was blocked by Caleb Martin. So Murray struggled in this game, but he did not let it bother him, and when the lights were the brightest, when his team needed him the most, he rose to the occasion and knocked down the game-winning three. If that isn't what the Miami Heat need, I don't know how I can spell it out for you. But the main reason why the Heat need to make a deal, preferably for Dejounte Murray, is how concerning the offense has been since we've turned the calendar year. In the year of 2024, 10 games played in January, the Heat's offensive rating is 110.1. For some comparisons, the Washington Wizards have the same exact offensive rating. The Brooklyn Nets have a higher rating than you. The Bulls, Hawks, and Rockets, and San Antonio Spurs, and Detroit Pistons all have a higher offensive rating than you in the month of January. It has been horrific for the Miami Heat in terms of scoring the basketball. And even when you look at points per game, they're ranking in the bottom of the NBA. The Wizards, the Nets, the Bulls, these teams that are not good are higher than you in terms of offensive statistics. I think the reason for it is, one, the lack of playmaking and the lack of shot making on the Miami Heat side of the floor. Jimmy Butler returned this past Monday. He obviously helped lead the Heat to a victory with 31 points. It hasn't been great since then, right? This week has not been good. And you could also put two and two together and say, well, Jimmy Butler comes back, Jaime Jaquez Jr. loses out, so you're losing a key piece, but you're also getting back Butler, so there really should not be any decreases in your offense. The one issue that Miami has, and I've seen other people talk about it, and I want to talk about it, is the Heat's shot selection. The Heat settle for way too many mid-range jumpers. They, I think, lead the NBA in mid-range shot attempts, which I don't think is a good thing. It's certainly not, because in today's NBA, teams are daring you to shoot the mid-range. They're saying we're going to try to limit the three and limit your rim attacks. And listen, it's sad because the Heat's three best offensive players all like to live in the mid-range. Bam, Jimmy, and then Tyler Hero he's always been a good mid-range shooter. He likes to hit that little floater 10 to 15 feet at the elbow, which he's been very effective at. But they're just low percentage shots. They're harder to make, obviously, than shots at the rim, but they're worth the same amount. And when you look at what other teams are doing against Miami, letting them up from beyond the arc, you can't compete with that when you're only shooting mid-range shots. So there is a serious concern with shot attempts for the Miami Heat when you look at their shot distribution. I also think that it's something to monitor when you talk about the Miami Heat's finishing rate. They are amongst the bottom of the NBA in percentage of field goals made around the rim. It's not a good thing. Tyler Hero has been one of the worst finishers in the NBA this season around the rim. That's not ideal. Jimmy's had a little bit of a decline. Now, I will say this. The past couple games, he's been really good finishing around the rim. He had a terrific offensive night yesterday against the Atlanta Hawks. But the moral of the story is that the Heat are just not a team that finishes around the rim amongst the trees against other rim protectors at a high enough rate. And what once was the top three-point shooting team in the entire NBA, they were leading the NBA in three-point percentage in the beginning of the season, shooting 39.4%. But in the month of January, they're shooting 34.4%. That's bottom half of the NBA. These things that were concerning for the Miami Heat offense in the regular season last year is still in coming back this January. They went away. That's why the Heat got off to a hot start this year. They were playing really efficient basketball on the offensive end after that 1-4 putrid start. They were rattling off wins because they were knocking down threes. Duncan Robinson was playing huge. Jaquez was playing really good. Jimmy and Bam were in and out of the lineup, but the team was playing as a whole. Now, in January, that has not been the case. The offense has went down a cliff, and they have been a really bottom half team offensively in 2024. And something needs to change. And I think that is Dejounte Murray. He is going to unlock potentially a different key to this offense. I believe a trade package would be Kyle Lowry, Nikola Jovic, and 1 first-round pick, maybe a second first-round pick. I'd probably lean no because Jovic is worth a first-round pick. They get the salary expiring contract. You also get a young player that's worth a first and an unprotected first-round pick. You pick your year, probably 2027. You get Dejounte Murray, who's averaging 21 a game this year. He can prove when he's not playing alongside Trae Young, who has one of the highest usage rates in the NBA when he's playing in terms of just handling the rock. And when Dejounte Murray is the main ball handler and initiator on the offensive end. He had 11 assists against Miami. So if you give him that role for the Heat and allow him to run a pick and roll with Adebayo, play make for Jimmy cutting on the baseline and V-cutting, right? And then letting Tyler play off-ball at more of a catch-and-shoot role on the wing, waiting to get the open look instead of having to initiate mid-range floaters and step-back jumpers. I think the offense would be able to flow more as a whole. It would be more effective. It would also help you defensively as well because of Dejounte Murray's ability to be a point-of-attack defender. 6'5" in height, 6'10" wingspan. He is a disruptive defender. Tyler Hero was the one Murray was guarding yesterday, and although Hero had a pretty good day, most of his points came on second chance opportunities when the Heat got an offensive rebound and kicked it out to an open Hero for beyond the arc. You allow Hero to be more of a Duncan Robinson on offense rather than having to be the ball handler and initiate all of his offense in isolation and pick and rolls, and Tyler can become much more efficient and be the player that us Heat fans expect him to be. The fit offensively and defensively is seamless. You need to get Kyle Lowry off this ball team. He has been horrific offensively this year. He can't defend either. I know a lot of people are saying that you can't blame Lowry for the loss last night, and I do agree. You can't blame Kyle for the entire loss. But what I can blame him for is those fourth quarter minutes that he played, the first 5 or 6 minutes of the final frame. He was a useless player out there. He didn't take any shots, and if he did find himself open for three, he would brick the shot. Lowry is not helping this team, and when you have an expiring deal as big as that, that's a big-time asset that you can use in a trade because you send him to a different team like Atlanta, $30 million comes off their books. Why wouldn't they want that? And I know that this has been a discussion because the Heat allegedly don't want to take on a contract like Dejounte Murray because it will hurt them financially in the offseason. And what what bringing Murray in would do is limit the ability for Miami to re-sign Caleb Martin and Haywood Highsmith. I don't give a fuck. I like Haywood Highsmith. I like Caleb Martin. Guess what? I'd trade those two guys for Dejounte Murray in an absolute heartbeat. He is someone that is on a very team-friendly deal for what he brings to the table. He's getting paid $17 million a season right now. He will get paid $28-30 million starting next year when that extension kicks in. And you create a really solid core four of Murray, Hero, Bam, and Jimmy. And guess what? You don't have to trade Jaime Jaquez Jr., so you get to keep him. And that is your five-man closing lineup. Murray, Hero, Jaquez, Jimmy, and Bam. That sounds like a championship-winning team, if you're asking me. That is a perfect lineup that can compete with Boston, compete with Milwaukee, New York, Philly. That team is the vision. And to me, it is not giving up that many assets if it's just Jovic, Lowry, and a first. I love Jovic, but it's worth bringing Murray into this team for the short term to help Jimmy win a title potentially, and for the long term with Hero and Bam, because Tyler needs help in the backcourt because he is exerting way too much effort on the defensive side, which I think is limiting his offensive ability. Now, I'm not saying that Tyler shouldn't try on defense, because he should, because when he doesn't try on defense, well, you saw what happened on Wednesday against the Raptors. But bringing in Murray will only take the less pressure off of Hero's shoulder. Allow him to do what he does best, which is being an igniter on the offensive side of the basketball. They need him. They absolutely need Dejounte Murray. They do. Now, before we close out of this video, I do want to talk about Jaime Jaquez Jr. because it's evident that the Heat need him back after a really rough week where he missed all 3 games. The first game he ever missed was on Monday. The second game he ever missed was on Wednesday. Third on Friday. He will miss Sunday's game against the Orlando Magic. I thought he would be back, but evidently the Heat will hold him out of that one with the groin injury. He will 1,000% be back on Wednesday. The Heat get 2 days off in between Sunday's game against the Magic and Wednesday's home game against the Memphis Grizzlies. They then play the Celtics on Thursday and the Knicks on Saturday. So a big week ahead where they play an inferior opponent on the Grizzlies, and they play 2 big-time teams in New York and Boston on Thursday and Saturday. I think a 2-1 week is absolutely necessary, but it all starts with a win on Sunday against the Magic. Hopefully the Heat can finally get out of this 2-game losing streak, these offensive woes, and defeat the Magic after losing their first game in the Southeast Conference in the 2023-24 season. They started off 9-0. Well, now 9-1 after losing to the Hawks. So make sure you do subscribe. Like I mentioned, we'll update you the latest Miami Heat trade rumors. So hit that sub button. I'll see you on the next video. Go Heat.